So you came up through comics in a time where it was a lot harder for female artists and creators, which we could pretty much apply to a bunch of different industries.
Right.
How has that changed? Do you feel like it's better now, or do you feel like there's still some improvements that need to be made?
There are many improvements that need to be made, even as it is much better now. The bar to entry is very low. Anybody can get in comics right now. You can start a webcomic, and congratulations, you're a cartoonist. But as for women getting in comics, it was very, very difficult back then. I'd go to shows where I'd be the only girl at the show, which is not an exaggeration, and it's not exceptional woman syndrome. I mean, it's literally go to a show, you'd be the only girl there. And people looked at you funny, and you know, the attitude was girls can't draw comics. And I actually heard from male editors that women are not visual, which is why women don't like porn. Therefore, yeah, I got news for them. No,
so much to unpack right there.
So much to unpack. But I swear to God, I heard this, and from more than one editor, that women can't draw because women are not visual. And because they're not visual and cannot process visually, they can't tell a story. And this is why girls don't like comics. And it was complete BS. It was nuts. And we heard it over and over and over, and it just drove you up the wall. And now there are lots of girls in comics. It's still a fairly low percentage, but it's much easier to get in. The unfortunate thing is that social media has made it really easy to harass girls. You've seen stuff happening with women in gaming. Well, same thing happens with women in comics, and it can get pretty rough. And you need to have a very thick skin. And of course, in fandom, girls attack each other too. It can get pretty nasty out there. And you know, can't we all get along and draw our stuff and write our stories? And not necessarily. You know, people can get pretty competitive. But you know, just gotta stick it out.
So Marie Severin, she's a close friend of yours. She was a pioneer in the comics industry.
Yeah.
How did you two become close?
I wouldn't say that we're super close. I would say that she is a great inspiration, and she was one of the few women working in comics when I got into comics. There have always been women in comics. People like to say there was no one around, but not only was she around, but she was very important at Marvel while I was growing up. And she was the acting art director of Marvel, which a lot of people don't know. She's done everything. She was a colorist, she was a letterer, she was a draftsman, she was an inker, and she was tough. I remember she was really tough on me when I got started. And you know, I walked in the door at Marvel Comics, she's like, whose girlfriend are you? You know, that's the way it was back then. If you were trying to get in comics, you were probably somebody's wife or girlfriend. So she really, you know, punched me in the jaw, and she's like, you know, do you deserve to be here? And I was like, excuse me. I was pretty wigged out. And eventually I won her respect, and that was so important to me because she's so good and so underrated for so many years. It was hard to get the top jobs when you were a woman back then. You generally got shunted aside, or maybe didn't get the regular jobs that you might have wanted to get. And Marie had all the stuff. She could do anything.
Female artists would get bad inkers. That was obviously intentional on some level?
I think it was intentional for the most part. First of all, the A-list artists get the A-list talent to work with them. And if you were D-list, you get the D-list talent. So you wouldn't necessarily get a chance to show how good you were. And even if you turned in the best pencils ever, what you got out from the other end after a bad inker cranked them out in a week, you got a really bad looking book, and the fans would go, see, women can't draw comics. You know, the art would look bad. So that would just perpetuate the stereotype of women not being very good at comics. I stopped working with inkers. I just said, no more. I will not work with them anymore. And I haven't worked with an inker in, you know, the better part of 15 years because I got tired of this. And it was the best decision I ever made because now nobody even bothers to ask. I get, you know, they even let me color my own work sometimes. You know, I just got finished coloring some stuff for American Gods with Neil Gaiman. You know, back in the day, they wouldn't let me near my own stuff, and now they're like, hey, you know, let her do whatever she wants. And I'm like, oh, it's lovely, jazz hands. So,
what's a piece of advice that you think every up-and-coming or aspiring female artist should hear?
You need to have your inner compass pointing true north. Validation is great. Everybody loves it, but if you're continually seeking external validation, you're going to continually be disappointed. You're always going to run into people who don't like your work. You're always going to run into people who say unkind things. You're always going to run into people who are sexist. And if you don't have your mess together from the inside out, it will kill your art. It will poison it, and you will begin to associate bad things and bad feelings with making art itself, which should be a wonderful thing and a positive thing. So, so remember why you were doing it in the first place, not for things out there, but for things inside, and that should help you no matter what happens.